the next year, what would be your forecast for next year? It doesn't look happy to me.
It begins with a D. It's called dreadful. And
yes, sir.
Let me tell you something. There's two organizations, and they both advocate the same thing. And after the beginning of the year, all corporations are going to have to meet their criteria, supposedly. And they did this 2 years ago, and the politicians in the United States said, no, 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 we have this credit crisis, you can't do this now. They said, okay, what we're going to do is we'll put it up for 2 years. Well, the 2 years are up. And what it is the FASB, International Accounting Organization. And what they say is, along with the Bank for International Settlements in Basel, which is the banker's bank. Most people don't know about it, but it's the most powerful bank in the world. And they both say the same thing. Corporations, particularly financial institutions, have got to stop keeping two sets of books. And all of the bad assets that are off the balance sheet have to be put back on the balance sheet. And secondly, you cannot anymore mark your portfolio to model, and you must mark it to market. Now, marking a portfolio to market is how much is that building worth that we own, how much are those bonds worth what we own, and have they traded recently, and if they have, what's a recent quote, and that's what they would carry them at. Mark to model is fantasy. It is whatever the bank wants it to be, or the brokerage firm, or Coca-Cola, or GE, or IBM, or whatever. And they're supposed to stop that. And if they do stop that and make them put it on the balance sheet, you're going to have, as they say, bankruptcies galore. It's going to be a bloodbath. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I don't know. All I know is what the rules are.
When you're talking about model, let me put it in very simple terms. If you bought a dog for $250, that dog cost you $250. That's what you're willing to pay for it. You could tell somebody you paid $5,000 for it. You traded two $2,500 cats for that dog. That is a model. There's no resemblance to reality. The reality is what a willing person's willing to pay for it. That's the reality. That's not the model. So let's do a quick snapshot of some of the things that are going on and talk about what's been happening with our pocketbooks right here. If you haven't figured out that we're very much in favor of buying gold, then you haven't been listening to the program. Gold still has a long way to go. It's at record levels, but if you were comparing it to official inflation, gold should be at $2,400. Real inflation, it should be at $6,700. We are entering a period where it's the Japanizing of America. We are going to have huge asset bubbles if we're not careful. New dollar carry trade is coming up, and that's the dollar carry trade. Prescription drugs up 9% wholesale last year. The Postal Service lost $3.8 billion last year, and 49 million Americans lack adequate food. We're also going to talk about the mortgage dilemma. Mortgage delinquency rates, the only way they're going to improve is if home values increase and unemployment decreases, and that isn't happening. Delinquency rates in Nevada, 14.5%, up 7.7% over last year. Florida, 13.3%. Arizona, 10.4%, up 5.5% over last year. California, 10.2%, up 5.8%. Wow, we are up all across the board on mortgage delinquencies, and it's spreading out to Main Street America, to the other places, not just these hot spots. This mortgage problem is far from over, isn't it, Mr. Chapman?
It's got at least 20% to go on the downside next year. And it's not going to end until 2013, and it may go longer than that. We have Alta loans that are still expiring. We have pick-and-pay loans, which are known as option arms. We have quality loans that are making up over 50% of the recent failures because people with good jobs and good credit are losing their jobs. And the United States government via Fannie, Freddie, Ginnie, and FHA, they are giving out subprime loans for the last year, and they're going to give out even more this year. And as you know, anybody who hasn't owned a home now for 3 years can get an $8,000 credit if they buy a new home, and now they've just added another $6,400 to that, so the credit's $14,400 in order to subsidize the building industry, which is still building 545,000 homes a year, which is insanity when they get the inventory that they've got. The whole thing is
14,400. That's only for new homes, isn't it?
Right, that's correct. And so that leaves the old inventory sitting there trying to save the home manufacturers. What they should all do is merge together into one company and hope they can make it. We've been short the home builders for some time, as well as the legacy banks for the most part, and I see they're all getting killed today. And, if you're in the market, all I can tell you is get out except for gold and silver shares. If you're in the bond market, get your money out and put it in gold and silver related assets, or if you must be in some sort of a bond, buy Canadian or Swiss franc treasuries. Don't yield much, but if the dollar's going to go down, you'll have a capital gain. And so that's where I think people should be going, but particularly in gold and silver coins. And Ted and I were on the Bush's show last night because Bush couldn't make it, and I was expressing my views on graded numismatic coins. I really like them. They're performing very well, and I think people should take a hard look at them.
Absolutely. Now I'm going to quote from the International Forecaster. Nearly one-third of foreclosures remain in pre-sale status after 12 months, twice as many as the year prior. 6 months average deterioration ratio has risen the past 2 months to 300%, showing that for every loan that improves in status, 3 more deteriorate further. The other thing that I've noticed, and you talk about New York, and I'm talking to friends around here in Phoenix, and what they're telling me is that the rents are going down because speculators have moved into Phoenix. They bought so many houses that they cannot get the rents anymore. And this is happening all over the place where rents are going down. When do you see inflation coming up, Mr. Chapman, or do you see inflation? So far it's been deflation, 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 but if the dollar keeps dropping, aren't we necessarily going to be looking at inflation coming?
Well, first of all, official inflation is 1.2%. Real inflation is 6 1/8%. The government doesn't tell the truth. And inflation began again this past May, and it will continue to gain momentum as we go into next year. And official inflation next year will be 4.5% to 5%, and unofficial inflation will be 14%. And if they continue to do what they're doing with the dollar, which they will, they're deliberately letting it go down, and the dollar breaks down through 71.18 on the USDX and say goes to 40 or 50, then inflation's going to go upward because of that, because Americans have to pay more money for goods that they're purchasing, both domestic and foreign. And so the following year, there's a good chance we could have 20 or 30% inflation.
Wow, we're talking another Zimbabwe before it's over. 20 to 30% inflation. Can you imagine that? They can't keep the interest rates at this level with 20% inflation. No way. More when we get back on Erskine Overnight. Mortgage Monitor revealed that the nation's foreclosure rate was 3.12% September 30th, up 2.6% from a month earlier and 88.9% year over year. And in Florida, 22% of all mortgages are non-current, according to Lender Processing Services. This is information you're not going to get anywhere else except from Robert Chapman, except from the International Forecaster, and it's information that you can use to make a wise decision. Buying a house right now, probably not the time, would you say, Mr. Chapman? We've still got some time to go.
Absolutely not. I wouldn't touch anything until 2013 at the very earliest. And goodness knows if that is the bottom, how long is it going to bump along the bottom? Will it be 5 years or 25 years? We just don't know. And those people who own homes, they bought for $300,000, that are now selling in foreclosure for $170 or $180. That's going to continue. And your house is probably going to end up being worth $150,000, if that. And you can expect that, and that's just the way it's going to be. And you can blame the Federal Reserve and your government and Wall Street and the bankers. They're the ones who did this to you.